Welcome to SBI TV. You're joining the most watched and listened to show dedicated to B2B revenue growth. My name is Melissa Valdez, the Director of Client Engagement for SBI. Our guest is Greg Clark, the Chief Marketing Officer for Caliber Collision Centers. Greg owns the B2C consumers and B2B audience. Join us as we deep dive into Greg's success in the life cycle of customer acquisition, why it's important, and what it means for accelerated growth. I hope you enjoy the show. From SBI's Executive Briefing Center in Dallas, Texas, the most watched and listened to content in B2B sales and marketing, it's the SBI Podcast with your host, Matt Shares.
Welcome to SBI TV, a weekly show dedicated to helping you make your number. Today, we're going to demonstrate customer relationship management. And the way I want you to think about this is not only relationship, but also reputation management. So as a consulting firm that studies the best practices of thriving companies who outperform both their competitors and their industry, we find that B2B companies lag behind B2C companies in adopting marketing best practices. So to leapfrog the competition, you must study what B2C companies are doing and then drive those practices into business to business. And I have a great guest to guide us through our topic, since Greg Clark has both B2C and B2B experience, and he has mastered this topic in my mind. My name is Matt Shares. I'm the CEO of SBI. I'm also your host. Joining me in studio in person today is Greg Clark, the CMO for Caliber Collision Centers. So Greg, first off, great to see you as always.
You too, Matt.
Welcome to the show. So if you wouldn't mind, if you maybe could introduce yourself and introduce Caliber, and then we'll get into the show.
Okay. My name is Greg Clark. I'm Chief Marketing Officer at Caliber Collision. I have 35 years of experience in marketing communications, ranging from consumer packaged goods early in my career, including Tylenol, just before the poisonings in 1982.
Good timing.
So I was involved with that. And then Lightbeer for Miller, and then moved into more service-oriented organizations. So I ran marketing and advertising for Home Depot for a number of years, and then moved into kind of pure service with Safety-Kleen running their marketing and branding communications. And then in 2010, went over to Caliber to run their marketing. Caliber Collision, as you know, today has 557 locations across 17 states. We had a little over $2 billion in revenues last year. When I joined the organization 7 years ago, we had 68 locations, and as I said, today we have over 500. A couple other factoids that will kind of probably be relevant for people who watch this tape. The majority of our volume comes directly from our carrier clients. So the majority of the marketing that I do at Caliber is more marketing from the inside out than it is marketing from the outside in.
And for those watching and listening, when you say carrier clients, can you explain what that means?
Well, insurance carriers are our primary clients, and we do, work with all major carriers, throughout the United States. And so, that's the definition. That's what we call those clients.
Perfect.
And so, again, because the majority of the volume comes through our relationships with those insurance carriers, like I said, the majority of my efforts are behind kind of bringing to life our position as restoring the rhythm of your life. And this is critically important for our conversation today, because we're going to talk a lot about reputation management. We're going to talk about a lot about customer relationship management, but it all starts with your purpose or your why, right? Because if you don't have your why in the right spot in terms of a benefit that's actually going to, entice, inspire, and to, drive customers to your products or services, it's really, really difficult. All of the things, including customer relationship management, reputation management, really don't work very effectively.
They would fall by the wayside.
So.
And I've had the advantage of seeing it from a front row, and obviously knowing you and the team for a decade. And you guys have truly transformed the industry. So this is going to be a great show. So, as always, my beloved co-host, Melissa Valdez, is here with me in the studio, and she's going to point you to resources to help you follow along and advance you on the way to making your number. Mel V, hello.
Hello, Matt.
Nice to see you.
Thank you. Welcome to our audience. Hey, I don't know if you all out there realize this, but we film 8 shows a month here at our Executive Briefing Center, the studio in Dallas, Texas. If I'm doing my math correctly, that's 96 shows a year. If you have a dream guest that you would like to see on our show, reach out to me, let me know who it is, and we will make an invitation to them and see if they want to come on to SBI TV.
Fantastic. All right. So Greg and I are going to jump into the questions. And in this first segment, we're going to focus on getting our arms around this concept that I introduced, which is both reputation and relationship management, and most importantly, why you should care. So, Greg, you talked about these insurance carriers, the State Farms, the Geicos, et cetera, right? I bump into somebody, I have a car wreck, right? Those are carriers, they're directing traffic as I panic and say, oh my goodness, I was trying to get to work, I got to get my car fixed, my life has been disrupted, right? And that's where obviously the restoration of rhythm comes into. But when you think about, I guess, why CEOs should be paying attention, I think CMOs would say, I get it, but they want to hear why. But CMOs and CEOs, why should they be thinking about reputation and relationship management from where you sit?
Well, because reputation management, and more specifically relationship management, is really the essence of your brand, right? It's every individual touch point that you have as a brand that your customers experience along their path or their experience through your brand are critically important. And unless you have a really good understanding of what those touch points are and how you can optimize those touch points as people walk through your experience as a brand, then you're going to struggle as a brand because you don't really understand what's the most important places to optimize and spend the majority of your money for the best ROI.
Yep. So let's talk about that. So relative to many of the traditional business-to-business companies that listen and watch this show, client experience, customer experience is now at the top of the order.
Right.
7 or 8 years ago, it wasn't the way that it was for you all, and the journey that you guys went on for 10 to 13 and all of the things you did. So you have experience in B2B and you have experience in B2C. Knowing the B2B leaders as you do and what their mental model is, what advice would you give to them relative to this concept of mapping the journey, but also managing and iterating how you manage the reputation of your brand?
Well, I think for CMOs and for CEOs, unless you fundamentally understand how people are experiencing your brand, okay, right, and both functionally and emotionally, okay, that it's really very hard for you to kind of understand how to optimize your communications, optimize your benefit, statements, optimize your value proposition, optimize everything else that goes into the selling of products or services.
Yep.
And I think it's one of those kind of things that feels mushy, and it may feel very mushy to a CEO, in a B2B world, that they have to kind of get inside of the head of their customers, but it's not. I mean, it's really, really important because when you do that, you find nuggets of information that take your brand to the next level. Yep. Again, as long as you have all the building blocks in place, right, in terms of a great benefit statement, know how to go to market correctly, know how to separate yourself from the competition, know how to talk about your points of difference versus the competition. And those are the kind of things that are going to really make the difference. I mean, whether you're talking about a service organization, a retail organization, or a B2B organization, everybody's looking for wow experiences.
Yeah.
And unless you can identify what those wow experiences are through the life cycle of your customer, it's going to be very difficult for you to differentiate yourself versus your competition.
So something you mentioned, and I want to key on that, you said you got to understand functional, you got to understand emotional. A term that we use, Melissa and I use here internally, and the team uses, is this concept of the emotional narrative. Mm-hmm. Meaning, and in management consulting, right, if you hire me to come in and work with you, there's what's the scope of work and what are the deliverables and who's the team and how long? Functional.
All functional. Right?
Then there is the emotional narrative of, ooh, are you going to expose me? Right? Mm-hmm. The threat of if you weren't the person who hired me and the CEO forced me on you, mm-hmm. right? You're suspicious.
Right.
So there's all these emotions, right? And you're smiling because I think we're on the same page here. So talk a little bit about how you got to the emotional awareness. Like, how did you actually peek inside and say the emotions of, when somebody runs into somebody else, or when they first get towed, or they first walk in the center?
Mm-hmm. Well, you have to understand that nobody wants to come to a collision repair location, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, you know what, I need to go to Caliber Collision today. You know, I need to get into an accident. I need to go to
somebody
Caliber.
rear ends me.
Yeah, right.
Because I'd love to get a rental car today.
That's really going to be fun. Yeah. So there's that. Okay. Then you have to understand that, you know, in my business, in the collision repair business, our repeat purchase cycle is about 8 years long. The typical person doesn't get into an accident except for once about 8 years. Okay, so in addition to some of the fundamental issues that I have as promoting my brand, i.e., you'd never want to come and see me.
Yeah.
Then you have to kind of deal with the fact that, dissimilar to consumer packaged goods, when I was selling Tylenol every 4 weeks, you know, I'm looking at it, you know, coming back maybe 8 years later.
8 years.
So. But the reality of the situation is when you get into an accident, you're upset, okay? There's a ton of emotion that is created. And think about it, right? You know, you're upset because you're late for your appointment, or you're upset because the kids may have been injured, may have not been injured.
My car's banged up.
Your car's your baby, right? Your car's your brand. And for most people in the United States, your car really is a badge, okay? And so your badge has been damaged. And so, you know, people are really emotional when they come into Caliber. And so that's why it's so critically important for us to understand that as a brand, as a company. So the first thing we do after the insurance carrier tells the customer that we're going to be reaching out to them in the next couple hours to set up an appointment, you know, the first touch point that is my call center, who calls up you, Matt, and says, Matt, you know, we'd like you to come into Caliber, but the first thing we need to know, Matt, is, are you okay? You know, did anybody get hurt? Is everything okay? You know, because at Caliber, you know, it's not about the car. The car is the price of entry. Now, you know, it's more than that, because you have to do a fantastic repair, and you have to, you know, do the repair relative to OE certifications, and there's lots and lots of stuff that goes into the repair of a vehicle. But the most important element of our business is the person, okay? Is the human being. Because those are the people that we have to take care of this journey, take them through this journey, that for the most part, Matt, they're just not familiar with, right? I mean, it was 8 years ago when I got in my last accident. I can't even remember what the name of my agent is, okay? So anyway, we have to kind of take them step by step through the journey. We have to kind of reassure them completely through the journey. And we have to make them feel like we care as much or more about them as people than we do the vehicle that's being repaired.
Well, I think in my last point, I guess, in this segment, Greg, is something relative that I believe that you did when you got to Caliber was you put the focus on the entire life cycle. Right, like what you just described off the top of your head, the touch points, what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. I'm agitated, I'm worried, right? Maybe I'm upset because my car is my badge. Love that term, et cetera. So what I'm hearing from you is the relevance throughout the life cycle, it matters. But then within that life cycle, I'm sure there are points of leverage that matter even more. The first call, maybe when I first walk in the center, I'm not sure.
No, absolutely.
Do you over-index and over-resource those points, or have you adopted the approach of, hey, if we've got 96 touch points, and because we're only going to see these people once every 8 years, we got to go 96 for 96?
We have to go 96 for 96, right? Because the difficulty you run into is that if that 12th touch point is a negative touch point, then you actually, from a perception basis, have taken a giant step back. And then it takes twice as many positive wow experiences for you to get back to where you were before. So you really can't disappoint your customer throughout the life cycle. And we've looked at, to your point, you know, call center, first time you've ever been touched, critical touch point. When they walk into our center, Matt, I mean, again, think about collision repair. Most of the people who will be watching this video, you know, when they think of collision repair in their heads, it's, you know, it's a junky place. There's a bunch of cars sitting around it. You know, they're probably going to cheat me blind, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So we have to change that. So literally, we're looking at the parking signs. We're looking at whether the bushes are, you know, nice and clean and managed. You know, we're looking at the asphalt and making sure there's no potholes or anything. And we're looking at, when that customer comes through the front door for the first time, that our CSR is standing up and shaking that person's hand, because they're respectful and they care about, you know, that customer having to come in under difficult circumstances. we have popcorn popping at 10 a.m. every morning to make it homier. And then you and I were laughing, before we were off camera, and we make sure that every restroom is perfect.
It matters.
Because it matters, right?
So, Greg and I are going to take a quick break. I guess what I would tell you, you can hear and see the passion that Greg speaks from. And I would tell you this fanatical focus on those key touch points. You should be asking yourself right now, if I have to go 96 for 96, do I know that I've got 96 touch points, number one. You might have some that are more important than others that you cannot get wrong. The most important thing is, have you got your team, the entire team, your entire company, focused on that journey? So we're going to take a quick break. Mel V, I think you have some goodies to share with the team.
I do, and Greg, I apologize. I have to correct you on something. I had an outstanding experience with Caliber Collision a few months ago through my insurance carrier, so much so that I actually do wake up and wouldn't mind if I got in an accident just to experience it all over again. So you never know. So and I'm wondering if y'all can fix my brakes too. I'd just like to go back to Caliber.
She's a statistical outlier. She gets in an accident once every 3 years, Greg. She's an overachiever.
Overachiever right here. Yeah. Drive like a maniac. And those of you out there who know me know that is absolutely true.
Well, thank you for that comment.
Absolutely. Those of you in the audience, you're probably waking up and not thinking about getting in an accident, but you're likely thinking about if you're going to make your number for this year. Well, SBI has built a web-based self-assessment specifically for you. It's a tool, an interactive tool, where you go online, you answer some questions, and the output of that is a roadmap to get you to make your number. So go ahead and push pause. Go to sbi.tips/revenue growth diagnostic.
All right, you're listening and watching SBI TV. I'm your host, Matt Shears, and today's guest is Greg Clark. Greg is the Chief Marketing Officer for Caliber Collision Centers. Today, Greg and I are demonstrating customer reputation management. And we're going to jump back into the questions. In the second segment, we're going to talk a little bit about what Greg does at Caliber, take another dive, and I know you're going to be able to extract some goodness from this. So, Greg, if we think about, not from you, but we think about the broader team across 557 locations. What is reputation management to the everyday Caliber employee? How do they think about that?
Well, the Caliber management team across the organization thinks a lot about reputation management because in today's day and age, most people don't realize, but I've actually timed it with my millennials. It takes a millennial 15 seconds to find a review on any product or service on the internet today.
I would believe it.
So as soon as we call you after you've gotten in an accident, we say, probably the best place for you to take your car is to Caliber Louisville.
Yep.
And you say, okay, that sounds good. They'll be getting back in touch with you. What's the first thing you're going to do? You're going to go look at, you're going to go look at
Yelp.
Exactly, Yelp or Google or
I'm
what
not a
have
millennial,
you.
Just so we're clear.
Right. Yeah, right. So it's going to take you, and me about 2.5 minutes.
That's right. I'm going to fax somebody your request.
Yeah, right.
While I get the phone book out and look something up.
But in today's day and age, 80% of all people, before they interact with an organization, a product or service, of this ilk, right, where there's a lot of money involved because, deductibles are very expensive, they're going to go out and look at your reputation online. And when they do that, they're going to make some fundamental decisions. So if you are a 4+, star rating, they're probably going to say, okay, well, this probably is going to be a good, good experience. If you're somewhere between 3 and 4, it's going to be, well, okay, I better put my armor on and see whether or not, this is going to turn out okay. And if you're below 3, they're probably not going to come to you.
Or you're setting yourself up because you think the experience is going to be so bad, but you're like, it's just the way the industry is. So I'm willing to live with it. It's needs-based. I got to get my car fixed. Mm-hmm. It's like going to the dentist, right? Yeah. Nobody gets up saying, I can't wait to go, but I have to go. Right. But, the entire time I'm on my way, I'm dreading it. So then knowing that, is there a process that the team goes through to monetize or leverage this advocacy and this fanatical focus on customers to help drive top line? Because people that are watching are saying, okay, Greg, got it, but you guys also are doing over $2 billion worth of revenue. you're growing and you're disrupting an industry. So it certainly helps as folks like you are having all this success. How do they monetize it?
Well, we monetize it through our, delivering on our purpose, okay, right? I mean, delivering on restoring people to the rhythm of their lives, and now that is created in KPIs, right? So today, over the 2017, Caliber Collision's overall Net Promoter Score was 85%, okay? So that's better than USA, that's better than Apple, that's better than Wegmans, that's better than Costco, that's better than anybody except Tesla. Who last year in 2016 had a 93%. So, and that's how we monetize it. Because if I've got an 86% Net Promoter Score, that means I am creating a massive amount of promoters. Okay, who are talking to 9+ individuals about how great this company is, and that you should go get your car repaired there. And then, but we have to match that in terms of our reputation online, right? So last year in 2017, we generated a 100% increase in our overall reviews. Today we have over 20,000 reviews for 557 locations. Our rating on Google or on Yelp is 4.2. Yeah. Our rating on Google is 4.1. And as I told our guys during our kickoff meeting a few weeks ago, that's not good enough, okay? We have to get to a 4.5 across every one of our locations because, again, if a customer goes out and tries to substantiate, what their insurance partner has already told them, that this is the best place for you to take your vehicle, then for sure they're going to come in and expect a wow experience, and we're going to deliver it and give them an 85%.
Is there a way, because nobody bats 1,000, is there a way that you all spot early signs of trouble, Greg? And then what you do when you see an early sign of trouble, that maybe the experience isn't going to be a wow experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we regularly communicate with our customer over the course of the repair, okay? And we communicate with them two ways. Okay. We ask them if they want to be communicated via text or email, and they give us that permission. And then we also call them twice a week. So not only are we keeping in touch with them on a regular basis throughout the repair in terms of either email or text, but then we're also making sure that there's their personalized touch, that we are touching them, our service advisors are touching them at least a couple times a week to make sure they're comfortable and they understand where we're on the repair experience. When you come to us on, let's say, a Friday and pick up your car for delivery, and so you pick it up at 4 o'clock on Friday afternoon, at 7 p.m. that night, every person who has picked up their vehicle during that particular day receives a text or an email from us that asks one simple question. Were you completely satisfied with your collision repair experience? And so if you click yes, we ask you for a comment. If you click no, we ask you for a comment, reason why, and then those no's are automatically sent to both our center manager who handles that particular customer and the regional manager who handles that customer, so that both the center manager and the RM know that this is a customer that needs some additional restoration. And so, terrific. And the reason we do that is because 72 hours later, then the it's carrier branded, survey goes out to our customers. And I want to make sure everybody knows that's watching this video, we don't ask for tens. It's not what we do.
Yeah, it's not the intent.
Yeah, and so, we rely on an honest and open, answer from our customers in terms of how they think we've helped them with their repairs.
Well, and I think to close the loop on this section, what I find so compelling is that you said you ask the client if they want text or email. That seems subtle, but you give them a choice, right? Like all these little things that you do. Hey, how do you want to communicate? Right, 7 o'clock, you get the call. Like the way that you just rattle these things off is amazing. So I'm allowed to give advice because you guys can't tell me to shut up. And my advice is this. If you don't know the way your customers want to interact, and if you don't have the depth and just the finite detail, right? Greg's the CMO. He's not actually in buffering, is that the term, on a bumper?
Buffing,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, there you go, see? Man of the people. If you're not actually, Greg's not doing that, but because he knows what he knows, and he's constantly listening to the market and spreading that out through thousands of employees, you're going to give yourself a chance to get lucky, and you're going to give yourself a chance that your clients have this amazing experience. So Greg and I are going to take another break, and it's just enough time to let Melissa share some more goodness.
More goodies, yes, that's what I do. If I'm out there watching and listening, I am wondering immediately how I can create customer advocates masterfully in the way that Mr. Greg Clark has done so. Well, as Matt said, SBI had a front row seat to this transformation, so we are here to help you. I encourage you to enlist in an interactive workshop with one of our subject matter experts, and to get a feel for what's covered in these workshops, go to sbi.tips/2018 workbook.
All right, we're back here with my friend Greg Clark. Greg's the CMO for Caliber Collision Centers, and he has been giving us some great mentorship on the whole concept of reputation management and how you become completely customer fanatical. So, Greg, let's move to less emotional, more quantitative, right? We're a benchmarking firm, as you know, right? You like data, I like data.
Yeah.
People are watching, they're saying, okay, I got it. Got to manage the emotional narrative, got to understand how people feel, got it. How do I measure the effectiveness of this? What KPIs can I be paying attention to if I'm in B2B to help me say it's working?
Well, I think the same measures that we use in the B2C side can be just as effective in B2B. So, I mean, the most important measure, I think, is Net Promoter Score. Because I think if your customers can honestly tell you that I would recommend you to a friend. Now, the way we phrase the question, at Caliber is, would you recommend us to friends or family? But so obviously, if you would recommend me to a friend, then you basically you are a promoter of your brand. So, and then in the B2B world, yes, there's lots and lots of other things in terms of KPIs that you should be looking at in terms of, speed of delivery and, effectiveness of the consulting group and, and all the different things that, come into play on a B2B side. But those KPIs are honestly not that different from what we do in the B2C world, right? Yeah. We look at, for collision repair at Caliber, we look at quality repair and how much is returned and, how many, all those different types of things. So I think they're essentially the same types of measures, just slightly different for the B2B world.
So let's take it one step higher. Those watching, many of them are working in an environment where they have a private equity sponsor, and they need to generate and increase enterprise value. And without you sharing specifics, as you said, you walked in 68 locations. From what I can recall, about 1/10 the size of what you are now, 557 locations, and obviously a great run along the way. I mean, it seems like, yes, you guys do quality work, but the reason why enterprise value has grown the way it has grown, and it's been great for the team, this has been the differentiator. Is that a fair statement? This being the way you've fanatically focused on the customer in an industry that really hasn't.
I think it's definitely one of the differentiators. I think our overall go-to-market strategy and our benefit statement of restoring the rhythm of your life, I think has been a fantastic and a powerful differentiator relative to our competition, because we talk every day about the why, right? Why do we come to work? Why do we take care of our customers so maniacally, et cetera, et cetera? Most of our competition talks about either the what or the how. And it's very, very difficult for you to differentiate yourself when you're talking about what or how. Yeah. And then I think on that foundation, and core values that we have as an organization that we talk all about, every day, I think on those foundations, then things like reputation management and, being maniacal about the customer experience really, they blossom, right? Yeah. Because as long as you have, you know what you stand for, you know where you want to take the company, you know what you want to become, especially when you're kind of, you're consolidating a category like we are doing today, right? Still 25,000 locations around the United States. But when you're going through a consolidation play like we're doing, those are the kind of things that actually set you apart, not only for the customer, which is critically important, but it sets you apart maybe more importantly with your teammates, okay? Because if your teammates
That's interesting.
believe that
Yep.
they believe in your purpose, they believe in they get up in the morning because they want to help people and restore them to the rhythm of their life and get a paycheck and the other things that the people care about, then you supercharge an organization. And when you have 11,300 people that believe that purpose, and Lord knows, we don't have 11,300, but we have a significant portion of them that do believe that purpose. Everything else kind of falls into place,
Sure
right?
does.
I mean, whether it's quantitatively through the research that we do, or it's qualitatively through the way they talk about our organization. I used to, when I first started at Caliber, back 7 years ago, I'd go to airports with my logo on my shirt and nobody would say a thing, okay? But as we've grown over the years, I literally have people stop me, not only the TSA guys, every time.
Right.
Oh my God, I love Caliber, blah, blah, blah. But, I have people stop me on the airplane. Oh, I love Caliber, you fixed my car. And that's such a gratifying thing for me as the CMO of the organization.
That has got to feel amazing.
Yeah.
Like, talk about impact. Mm-hmm. So then, practically speaking, I'm watching and I say, okay, Greg, I'm in. I'm going to go do what you did and I'm going to follow the playbook. What resources do I need? How do I think through budgeting? Like kind of get us into the nitty gritty of your CMO peers thinking about headcount. Any advice or guidance you would give relative to that?
Well, I mean, that's a difficult question, Matt, because, budgeting, well, everybody's the brand, okay, right? So it's very difficult for me to say, hey, you're going to take these type of people in the marketing department to go ahead and execute that. I mean, sure, you can have X number of people in the marketing department that can help you lead the way towards those types of things. But honestly, every person in the organization has got to believe it and has to make it happen day in and day out. And so, it's hard for me to say, we spend, $1.3 million on reputation management, because honestly, I'd have to go back and say, okay, every center manager in our organization spends, 10 or 15 minutes a day thinking about reputation management. Okay, and then I start to do the calculation, and then all of a sudden it's hundreds of millions of dollars in terms of time and effort. Yep. Because unless everyone in your organization is all rowing that boat the same direction, you're never going to be effective at, taking it to the.
But I think what you just did, though, you answered my question very eloquently in the fact that the mental model is it's the 11,300 people. Mm-hmm. And the employee experience that your employees are having is going to be the brand extension for everybody who is a CSR greeting to somebody over the telephone to the person actually doing the work on Melissa's fender when she was on her way to work. I think that gets the answer. Greg, this has been fantastic. It looks like you brought some goodies with you.
Well, one of the things I think we talked about in terms of a couple of things that we do for reputation management is, again, we don't ask for a 10 or anything, but we do ask for the review. So we have this type of marketing material. I'm a marketing guy, so I have to bring some kind of
play on.
So this is the kind of things that we have, on our counters, right? So we have a simple counter card. But again, getting back to that, everybody is in it to win it kind of thing. We have this is an oversized, but this is a business card. So we provide our locations with thousands of these, okay? So the CSR can hand it to the customer, the service advisor can hand it to the customer, the CM, the OM, even a technician if they're out, reviewing the vehicle with it. And so that is another gentle reminder that, when you get home and, you're not crazed, go on to Google or Yelp and give us a review and tell us how we did.
What I love about that, though, Greg, is the consistency.
Right.
So if you think about customers going through a journey, one of the things, if you walk into a hotel, is there service consistency? Doorman, front desk, bellman, wait staff in the restaurant, is there service consistency? That is another example of you empowering an employee as the extension of relationship and reputation management.
That's right.
To have consistency. So I think that's fantastic. Well, I appreciate you taking time to come by.
As always, fun.
Yep. As always, power packed with good insights.
Yep.
And my sincere wishes for more success.
Thank you so much, man. I enjoyed it.
All right. Melissa is going to wrap up the show. I think she is done polishing the bumper that she wrecked. And sorry, just a little fun.
Having a lot of fun with that one.
Yes, I am.
Well, Greg, when you're ready for some content of your own, you can hop in Matt's chair and invite me and the TSA agent that you ran into, and we'll go on and on for longer than 30 minutes about Caliber Collision for you. So there you go. For those of you out there listening and watching, we don't want you to miss out on this content or any other fantastic content. So go to salesbenchmarkindex.com/register, and there you can select the topics of interest to you and choose when you want to receive this content.
All right, folks, that's it for today. As always, Melissa and I are very grateful that you would put your eyes and ears and spend a little bit of your time with us. So thank you for that. Until next time, I wish you good luck as you try and make your number.
This has been the SBI Podcast. For more information on the studio, SBI's Executive Briefing Center, our team, or to schedule a workshop, please visit salesbenchmarkindex.com.